Have you ever wondered what those sponsored results are at the top of Google? Do you ever ask yourself, what is the difference between pay-per-click and SEO? What even is SEO and why should I be doing it? If you have any of these questions and have always wondered, well, this video is for you because I really want to start at the very basics. And we got this idea because when we were at the Limo show in Vegas, which was great, it was at the end of February. We had a little setup where we had a bunch of clients come through and we were all talking. And I was talking to a gentleman who was not a client, but had some questions about pay-per-click. He asked me, what are those sponsored listings? When we were talking about this later on that day, it hit us that many operators don't know the basics, and that's okay. And so I thought it might be helpful to create a little series teaching the very basics just so you understand and know why search marketing, I believe, is the best type of marketing for a limo business. So first things first, search marketing is when you are trying to get your listings to show up on Google, Bing, Yahoo, you name it. Of course, Google pretty much owns search marketing. They've got like an 80% plus share. But it's when someone searches, let's say, limo service near me, you're going to see several different things typically pop up. Now, in the very top, you've got the sponsored / ads section. That's Google Ads, okay? So when it says sponsored, those are, that's typically going to be Google Ads. And usually you're going to see 4 listings at the very top, and they're going to be sponsored listings. And it's usually going to be 4 different businesses that are advertising in that area you're in, right? Because where your ad show is based on what cell tower is your phone pinging or your home address. So it's a combination of that and what you've searched. So it's 4 ads on the top typically. Now there's a map typically under that. That's going to have 3 to 4 listings in it. When it's got 4 listings in the map, there's usually an ad at the very top. So that's another, you could call it sponsored listing. That's Google Ads. So when you see 4 listings in the map area, that top listing is an ad. And then those other 3 listings, that is what you do local SEO to get ranked in that area. And then below that is the organic section as well. You can figure the 3 listings in the local section, that's technically organic. Organic meaning you're just not paying every time someone clicks on your ad. Okay, now let's discuss pay-per-click and kind of, what the benefit is of that. So again, pay-per-click is when you see it says ad or sponsored. And this is typically going to be Google Ads. It could be Microsoft Bing Ads. They have their own ad network. And the benefits of pay-per-click are that it works so quickly. And so I talk about it a lot on this channel. And the reason for that is most operators that come to us, they don't have the budget to pay monthly for something that's going to pay off a very long ways in the future. It could be 2, 3, 4 years, which is SEO, search engine optimization. And most want to get an immediate return on their investment. And so that's why I typically advise new small operators to start with pay-per-click. It's expensive. Unfortunately, it's pretty expensive. So even when everything's done right, and many will try it on their own, most unsuccessfully, before they find an agency or we help them or another agency, because it is deceptively simple. But those listings, you can have your business on the top of Google literally within 30 minutes or almost right away within, if we launch an ad and enable a campaign, they go live very quickly. I mean, so much so that one of our clients we met up with there, he's out of the Central Coast in California. He got a job, like a $1,600 job on his very first day. We were running ads for him, and he was so excited. And I've learned the hard way that we don't want to always take credit, like what we, he had a good campaign, but it was just somewhat lucky that he booked a big job like that on his very first day within the first few hours. Of course, he was sold at that point. Hey, why have I not been, why was I not doing this sooner? And it's not always that quick that you're going to get instant results, but it's possible because as soon as your ads start showing at the top of Google, it's possible to start getting bookings. And so common pay-per-click mistakes that I see, the main ones are going to be the wrong keywords and keyword types, not tracking. So with Google Ads, Bing Ads now, they've made everything so automated, which is great because you can use their AI, and really, in some ways it's easier, but in some ways it's harder because if you don't have the right tracking in place, meaning when someone clicks on your ad, let's say they search limo service near me, they click on your ad, they go to your website, and then they call you. Well, most operators that are doing ads, they're not even tracking phone calls as conversions. So that's a fancy word for saying a conversion is a lead. So if someone searches limo service near me, they click on your ad, what it should do if you're using third-party tracking is you're going to land on the page and it's going to be a different phone number from your number. Now it's going to forward to your number. But that's sending the data to Google that, hey, this person searched this in this location and then called. And so that tells the algorithm, okay, that is a valuable search query when you combine the search query and where the person was. And there's hundreds of other factors, right? They're logged into their Google account. There's so many different signals they get. But if the tracking isn't set up properly, and for most of you out there, it is not set up properly, everything needs to be tracked. Form submissions, phone calls, if someone books online, for all these booking tools now, it should be tracking your quotes and your bookings, because there's some very popular booking tools out there that they're not actually tracking the quote requests. It should be tracking both the quote request and the booking. The longer I do Google Ads, the more important I believe tracking is, because if you're not tracking, you are really flying blind. So really just the right keyword selection, making sure your tracking is set up properly. And then it's very simple. Send them to a page that is about what they were searching for. So if they're searching for buses, don't send them to a stretch limo page, right? If they're searching for an airport transfer, don't send them to a wedding page. I mean, this is kind of obvious stuff, but what's not so obvious is you really want to make it easy when they land on that page to get a quote, to find your phone number, to know what action you want them to take next. And so most of the time that's going to be request a quote via one-step form, initiate a live chat, or the best is if they call you. Those are typically going to be the ones that convert at the highest rate. Okay, so SEO. What is it and why do we do it? So as I mentioned it earlier in the video, so SEO is trying to rank your site organically. What that means is so that it naturally shows up high in Google search, so that when someone clicks on your listing, you're not paying every time someone clicks on it. Imagine if you show up at the top of Google 24/7, 365 when someone searches limo service, Chicago, for instance, and you show up in the map area. The map area looks like this, and it's got the 3 listings. So you show up here and you show up below that. And you do so 24/7, 365. Do you know how much that's worth? In a city like Chicago, it could be worth $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month. Because if you're showing up for limo service, you're probably showing up for a lot of other things as well. So SEO is the process by which you try to rank your website organically. And how you do this, there's two types. There's local SEO, which that focuses on the map area. And then there's just regular SEO that focuses down here. So for local SEO, and that's where I would start with most of you watching this. If you haven't done any SEO, start with your Google business profile. Make sure it's fully filled out. Make sure you've got, things like hours, your service category. For most of you, it will be limousine service. If you do buses, it should be bus charters. I see lots of wrong categories in this industry, like airport shuttle, for instance. If you're a limo company and that's your category, you're really limiting your visibility to people that are just searching. If all you want is airport transfers, that's different. But for most of you, I know that is not the case. So you want to fully complete your Google business profile. And I'm talking about every single section you want fully filled out. You want to add a bunch of images. Now, if you actually have an office, which most don't these days, but if you do, make sure there's photos of the outside, the inside, anything that makes you look like a more legit business. You really want to leverage that because these days, most people work from home and they might store their vehicles at another location. And then make sure in your profile, you got photos of the outside and the inside of your vehicles. Have a staff photo, have a photo of yourself, the owner, with your staff. These are the kind of things that people look for when they're trying to decide who to work with, right? Now, of course, getting reviews to that Google business profile is enormously valuable. But if you just do those things, fill it out fully, have lots of photos, hopefully you're in a location that's near where near a business district, because one of the main factors for ranking this Google business profile is where you're at. So meaning if someone searches, let's say limo service near me, even if someone has a really well optimized Google business profile, but let's say they're 10 miles away from you and your business is right next to that person, most of the time you're going to show up above them because proximity is one of the biggest factors. Now, really what we want is to rank our Google business profile so that anyone in the world, for instance, they search limo service Washington, D.C., and they see in that 3-pack, you're in that 3-pack, but the person searching from, let's say, the UK, okay? But they do that search and they see you in one of these 3 listings. That is when you're going to get lots and lots of call volume. Now, that can take some time to really get there to where everyone all over the world sees you in that 3-pack. And it goes beyond just having your Google business profile filled out in the right category, doing all that right. You also want, a lot of reviews, but you want citations. So citations are something that's very important for local and non-local SEO. So a citation is your name, address, and phone number. And many times it will have a link to your website. So citations are on literally everything. So let's say you have a Facebook business page. Let's say you have an Instagram professional page or whatever. Let's say TripAdvisor, The Knot, Wedding Wire, you name it. There's dozens of these really big sites, and there's hundreds and thousands of smaller directories. And in every single one of those directories and in every single website, you want a consistent business name, address, and phone number. The companies that we've taken on that have been more challenging to rank really well locally, it was really just cleaning up their citations. Because what happens is you're in business for 20 years and you jump around, you change locations, and every few years you might start creating new, different profiles. And so it's just a big mess after 20 years in 4 different locations. And and multiple phone numbers. That's why I highly recommend not changing those things, because when you do, and sometimes you have no choice, right? But when you do, you want to make sure you're doing citation cleanup, meaning everywhere online you're listed, you're changing that to your current address, your current phone number, because that is a huge ranking factor. Now, for non-local SEO, citations are just as important, and it's really the same thing you're doing for the local SEO, just making sure it's consistent across the internet. Now, your website, having the proper on-site optimization. What that is things like your title tags, your meta descriptions, the content on the page itself, right? Do you have, let's say you want to rank for Limo Service Washington, D.C. Well, I should probably see that in your title tag. I should see that in the meta description. I should see your H1, which is like your biggest heading, should have that as well, because that's telling Google what the page is about. And then generally probably 700 to 1,000 words of content on that page, not spamming keyword usage. You really don't need to use it that much. It used to be back in the day, you'd want to use it over and over again, but no, you really want to make it natural. But these are some of the things that are important for on-page optimization. Even things like making sure your pages link together in a certain way. And then one thing for those of you who are already ranked, and let's say you rank for something big like Limo Service Chicago or something, you want to leverage that authority your website has and create lots of smaller pages that are trying to optimize for smaller markets around Chicago, right? So the Chicago suburbs, my mind's drawing a blank, but there's lots of smaller cities around Chicago. So you would use small city name Limo Service, right? And that would be a page off of your website. And you might have hundreds of these pages. And what happens is you're really good. If you're ranked really well in a competitive market, those pages are going to perform and shoot up very quickly because it's going off of your website's authority. So what do I generally recommend? Of course, SEO long-term is going to be the best thing for your limo business. But here's the thing. You've got two choices. You can do it yourself, okay? It's not rocket science. And if you're down to devote the time to kind of learn how it works, it is possible to do yourself, but just know that it's going to take time and you need to learn a little bit about web design and lots of other things. For most of you out there, that's not going to be what you're going to do. So when smaller operators come to us and they generally think that they want to do both, right? I want to do pay-per-click and SEO. And the thought of doing pay-per-click, for many, they don't like the thought of it, right? Because it is something that never goes away. You always have to pay for. And unfortunately, the costs just go up every year as well. So it's not like over time, it's going to get less and less expensive. It generally gets more expensive over a long enough time span. Granted, I have noticed my clients that have been running ads for 6-7 years are always getting a much lower cost per lead in their market than newer ad accounts. But for those smaller operators that are, let's say, doing really less than $400,000 or $500,000 a year, I generally don't recommend, starting SEO yet. And here's what I tell everyone is once you have $1,000 to $2,000 a month in your budget to where you won't miss that money. It's not going to affect your life. It's, extra funds that you can reinvest in your business. And even in your slowest month, you can continue to invest. That's when you're ready. The problem I typically see is they speak with an agency and the agency says 6 months. That's what they all say. They always say 6 months, you'll see results. Look, the truth is if you have a website that's got 20 years of age and you and maybe you've done SEO in the past, you've got all these social profiles built out already, maybe you will see, pretty good results in 6 months. But if you're in LA and you just registered your domain, a year ago, and you're asking, hey, how long is it going to take to really start seeing good results? Now, good results to me is, when is the point where, let's say we're spending $2,000 a month on SEO, where is the point when we're going to get as many leads through SEO as we would if we spent that same money on Google Ads? That's the point at which it becomes no-brainer for people. But you have to realize at that point, it is so much more valuable than pay-per-click, because pay-per-click, you stop it and the leads stop, the bookings stop, you're dead in the water. With SEO, if you stop doing SEO, it's, someone in our, at our agency gave this good, analogy. It's kind of like a glider, where a glider, it's not going to just dive out of the sky, right? It's going to slowly lose its rankings. And if you're in a very competitive market, let's say you're getting 100 leads a month, well, a year from now, after stopping SEO, you might be still getting 50 or 60 leads a month. Really, what you're paying for in the beginning is you're paying for all the leads you're going to get far in the future. And that's why it can be so difficult for operators to stick with, because it just becomes a better and better return the longer you do it for. But many don't stick to it long enough, because most agencies, the 6-month thing, I wish they would stop saying that, because really, until it gets to the point where you're like, man, this is a no-brainer, for most, it's going to be over a year. For those of you watching this, you need to have the right expectation. Even if they're doing everything they're supposed to, it's going to take time. And one big downside of SEO and using someone is there's a lot of trust involved, because the truth is the results don't come right away. And so, of course, you can be monitoring your rankings, and that's typically what we send. What agencies should be sending you is a monthly report of where you're showing up in the search engines for different searches. Like, are you on the second page, or have you gotten to the first page? That's very important, and you should be seeing over time that improving. And once you start getting some of your keywords to, first page, that's really when the leads will start picking up. But it's this local area that's going to get you the most leads. And really, we have a client actually in Florida market, never done SEO. All he's done is gotten a ton of really good reviews on his Google business profile, which, by the way, he filled out all the way. Okay, so he did a good job of that. And he's got like 155-star reviews in the past year, which is incredible, right? He's very diligent about asking for reviews. He's getting lots of free leads now. I'd say probably 30 to 40 a month just from his Google business profile, right? And if he were to go buy those leads with Google Ads, he'd be paying probably close to $700, $800, $900 a month. So wow, that's why I'm saying, guys, get a Google business profile. They're not easy to verify these days, but that's a good thing, because if it's not easy for you, it's not easy for your competitors. And get lots of 5-star reviews, real reviews. Don't buy reviews. I do not recommend that. This should give you a little primer, guys, on kind of what search marketing is. I hope you enjoyed the video. And in next week's video, we're going to be discussing kind of websites versus landing pages. What are they? Are they similar? Why use one over the other? And continue on in our series that really covers the basics of online marketing for Limo companies. Hope you guys enjoyed. Give it a thumbs up if you got some value from the video, and I'll see you guys on next week's video.